House will come to order. Members, our prayer today will be given by Dr. Larry Wood from Gulf Shores, Alabama, guest of Francis Holt Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, guests, let us bow in prayer. Lord, we ask your blessing on the people's representatives in the people's house, here to do the people's business. May their thoughts extend beyond this chamber, and may their hearts be back home, especially with those who are not powerful, who do not have well-connected friends. And may they think primarily of those who have only their representatives to look after them. What happens in this chamber will affect them. What happens in this chamber will affect those who are hungry and thirsty, who are poorly clothed, those who are sick, those who are in prison. And what we do for them, we do for you. All of us of every faith understand this sacred obligation to the least of our brothers and sisters, and to you, Lord, so we pause to pray for guidance and grace in your name. Amen.
Amen. Members, State Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Zachary Wilson. He's a senior at Trinity Presbyterian School here in Montgomery.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, call roll.
Mr. Speaker, Allman, Baker, Bedsole, Blackshear, Bolton, Boyd, Bracey, Brinyark, Brown, Butler, Carnes, Chestnut, Clark, Klaus, Collins, Colvin, Crawford, Daniels, Datcher, Drummond, Dubose, Easterbrook, Ellis, England, Ensler, Estes, Faulkner, Fiddler, Fincher, Fort, Garrett, Gidley, Gavan, Gibbons, Gray, Hall, Hammett, Harbison, Harrison, Hassel, Hendricks, Hill, Holt Jones, Hollis, Hulsey, Hurst, Ingram, Jackson, Jones, Keel, Kirkland, Lamb, Lands, Lawrence, Lee, Lipscomb, Lomax, Lovern, Marcus, McCampbell, McClammy, Mooney, Moore M, Moore P, Morris, Oliver, Paramore, Pascal, Pettis, Pringle, Rafferty, Ream, Reynolds, Rigsby, Robbins, Robertson, Ross, Sellers, Sells, Shaver, Shaw, Shiree, Simpson, Smith, Sorrells, Stodhagen, Standridge, Starnes, Stringer, Stubbs, Tillman, Travis, Treadaway, Underwood, Wadsworth, Warren, Witt, Wharton, Wilcox, Wood D, Wood R, Woods, Yarborough.
"76 members have answered roll. Quorum is present. House is ready to transact business. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request that leaves of absence be granted for absent members.
Any objection? Here, no objection. Absent members are excused. Chair further recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 6th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 6th legislative day be dispensed with.
Any objections? Hearing none, the reading of the journal is dispensed with. Chairman Lovern, you're further recognized for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that floor privileges be granted to Lauren Wright this week. She is an IT consultant for our legislative website and will be observing the legislative process.
Any objections? Hearing none, floor privilege are granted. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle, for the purpose of making announcements.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a novel here today. Capitol Commission Bible study every Tuesday from 11 to 11:45. The Alabama Sheriff's Association Legislative Appreciation Evening is tonight from 5 to 8 p.m. on the Sheriff's Association office on Washington Avenue. Yellowhammer Panel, the Alabama Association of Realtors, Speaker Ledbetter and Senate Pro Tem Garland Gudger from 5 to 6 p.m. The Alabama Independent Insurance Agents Social is from 5 to 8 at RSA Plaza. The Porch Band of Creek Indians tonight at Ravello's from 6:30 to 8. Wednesday night, the Alabama Retired State Employees Association reception at the Alabama Department of Archives and History from 5 to 7. The Council for Leaders in Alabama Schools dessert buffet is from 3 to 4 tomorrow afternoon on the 6th floor. Taste of Alabama legislative reception is from 5 to 7 at the Alpha Building on East South Boulevard. The ALCAP breakfast is tomorrow morning from 7 to 8 a.m. in RSA Plaza. And Thursday, Higher Ed Partnership Day legislative lunch from 11:45 to 12:30 on the Capitol lawn. And the Alabama Association of Boards of Registrars legislative breakfast Thursday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. at the Farmers Market.
Make that 9 a.m.
All right. Mr. Speaker, I move that when we adjourn today that we leave the journal open for the clerk to complete its paperwork and we reconvene on Thursday, February the 20th at 9 a.m. Thursday.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, the motion prevails.
I got one more, Mr.
Clerk now receive reports. Standing committees read those reports throughout the day. The House now in position to introduce bills and resolutions.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Pro Tem, you're recognized.
I made this announcement last week. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a bill at LSA, go to LSA desk and pick up your bills. They are there. Nobody picked a bill up last week. You need to get your bills from the LSA desk on the floor. Thank you. House Joint Resolution number 47 by Representative Lee commending the Alabama Department of Public Health on the occasion of its 150th anniversary of service to the state of Alabama. House Joint Resolution number 53 by Representative Sorrells commending Alice Pack on her accomplishments and her performance at Carnegie Hall. House Joint Resolution number 54 by Representative Hall commending the GFWC, Alabama Federation of Women's Clubs, for public service. Senate Joint Resolution number 6 by Senator Elliott celebrating the 100th anniversary of Volkirk Incorporated. Senate Joint Resolution number 8 by Senator Elliott celebrating and remembering the life of Fred Nall Hollis. Senate Joint Resolution number 14 by Senator Allen mourning the death and celebrating the life of Archie L. Wade. Senate Joint Resolution number 17 by Senator Wagner commending the Honorable Judge Carol Smitherman on her retirement. Senate Joint Resolution number 18 by Senator Beasley mourning the death and celebrating the life of Tammy Teague. Senate Joint Resolution number 19 by Senator Allen mourning the death and celebrating the life of William Raines III. Senate Joint Resolution number 20 by Senator Gavan proclaiming February 25th, 2025 as Space Day.
I move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? They are adopted.
House Joint Resolution number 30 by Representative Ingram supporting additional appropriations for the Metro Area Crime Suppression Unit.
I move adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? They are adopted.
House Resolution number 49 by Representative DuBose recognizing April 17th, 2025 as Buckets of Smiles Day.
Move adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Hold on a second, Clay. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Reverend Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition with the gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
I was actually concerning a House joint resolution, and we kind of got past it. And I just want to kind of just get an idea of what exactly this is doing. Supporting the additional appropriations for the Metro Area Crime Suppression Unit. And I'm wondering, what is that? And where would the additional appropriations come from? And the reason why I wanted to have a conversation, because I know a lot of times with some of these resolutions, you all say, hey, these resolutions are good to go. We can take them all together and we can move forward. But it's a reason why we are voting individually on these resolutions. And I'm just kind of wondering, what exactly is that? Why are we doing it? Where's the money coming from? What's the metro area? The metro, is that Mobile? I mean, the metro to me is Mobile. So I'm just kind of wondering,
Sure.
what is this?
Sure, I know the broad topics, but if the speaker would allow it, yield to the sponsor of the resolution and go in depth and give you the accurate explanation of those parts, if that's
Yes, sir. And I'm hoping that I'm in accordance, because this is something I wanted to speak on. I know we've jumped to another resolution, but I think we need to address this particular resolution. He thought he was off today.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we passed right on by it. How you doing,
Well,
man?
my light was on, and I was trying to get the speaker's attention. He said he was going to call me up.
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to get an idea. What exactly is this? What's the metro area? What is the
this
crime
suppression-
suppression unit, and where would the additional funding come from for this?
So the additional funding will come out of the general fund. And what we've done in Montgomery is, we've had a vacancy of law enforcement in Montgomery just because, they've chose to go somewhere else, whether they chose to go to the sheriff's department or wherever. And it's just like a lot of other municipalities that we didn't have the law enforcement in the city. So the city had reached out, the mayor had reached out, the sheriff had reached out to ask if we could help, and it worked great. They were able to join forces on a tripod, task force, state, city, and county, and be able to make some arrests, cut down on gun violence, cut down on all the violence. And it's worked so well that I think I know the governor and the speaker and our sheriff and our city has been pleased with the results, and we want to continue to do this in other parts of the state when they need it. Like the sheriff of Wetumpka, or the mayor of Wetumpka. Somebody may ask, in other areas in the district and in the state, it's needed.
So this is something that you're working with the mayor of Montgomery on?
No, this is something that we've worked with the sheriff on, and we have had communication. Hal has worked with them on. I'm not in law enforcement.
So this is Hal.
But I have worked with the sheriff, has reached out, and the sheriff had been involved, and Hal and the sheriff and the police chief, Gray Boy, have been working on it.
So it's like, this is like three
entities, the state,
county, city, and the county is coming together to combat crime in the metro area.
Right. And what this task force would do would join the forces with that municipality. If they needed them to come in, they would join forces with that municipality, whether it be Birmingham, whether it be Prattville, Wetumpka, or whoever it may be, that they'd be able to come in and help them if they get short on their resources.
Okay. So you said the funding would come from the general fund.
General fund.
What's the fiscal note on this?
I didn't hear you.
The fiscal note, how much would come from the general fund?
I don't really know what the fiscal note would be. They'd be expanding a little bit, a few additional officers. I don't know that figure. I'd have to ask.
Yeah, because we'll have the officers, we'll have their equipment, the cars.
And most of that is already there, the cars and the equipment. It's just they've got the resources in place now, but they don't want to take people off of the street, so they may have to add a few additional officers to replace that.
Okay.
I would imagine these people that would be bringing up would be a few of them from the state, and then we would have a few from the city and a few from the county resources.
Okay, so
all wouldn't be from the state.
So
It's about saving lives.
right. So and I'm okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard some things about some of the things that they were doing in Montgomery, and I was thinking, hey, this may be
And I'm
something
sure
that
you
would
were
be
proud of that.
beneficial.
It was good.
You know, in some other areas, but so. House Joint Resolution is the route for this. This should not be a bill.
I think, it's something they've already got the tools in the toolbox to do to increase personnel and in Aaliyah, to increase, when you're talking about state resources, we already do things in the municipalities now. The state is above, the county and the municipalities. They can go anywhere, just like a game warden can write anybody a ticket. The state can write a ticket anywhere or enforce the law anywhere. So
Right,
this is
but I
just
guess-
something that we would be showing the municipalities that they've asked for help and we're there to help them and to let them know that tool in the toolbox is there. Because hiring people right now, we've been going through this for several years. For them to be able to hire somebody is problematic right now.
Right.
And we want the public to know that the resources are in place. This is a safe place to live in Alabama, no matter where you live. We're going to do, the legislature, you and me are going to do what we can do to make people safe.
And I agree with that. I agree that we should be making people safe. I guess what my concern is, with this being a House Joint Resolution and not an actual bill, as a member that sit on the general fund,
Right.
we're passing a resolution giving the authority to spend money from the general fund where we don't have a fiscal note. We don't know how much this is going to
Well,
cost.
you would know, since Aaliyah's already come to you, what their increase is. What is their increase ask this year?
So this is within Aaliyah's increase.
Within their ask.
But the thing is, even with their ask, we hadn't approved that.
Right.
We hadn't approved that budget. So it's just
Well, I
like
guess if
it's
we
just
don't
like any other organization. Every organization that comes to the general fund, they always ask for here, and then we have to look at it and we start to kind of scale back to figure out where exactly we can go. Like I know, every budget that we never approved the budget that the governor sent over here.
But you're okay with this task force?
I'm okay with it. I'm just wondering, but it just seems to me that this would have gone through the general fund committee so we can actively vet it, find out how much it's going to cost, attach a fiscal note to it, and then we could move forward and make sure that we have the funding needed to make sure
And I
that it's
think-
successful, because other people are going to want to do it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I know you're familiar with the Big Ten mayors.
Right.
And a lot of times when you see things happen in one of the Big Ten mayor city, the other ones start to kind of say, hey, we want to be able to do some things like that. This could be very, very beneficial.
And this
to
is
us.
open to every municipality, no matter
Right.
how big or how small they are.
So it sounds like the fiscal note is going to be a lot larger than we even could anticipate.
I don't know, but I don't think you can put a price on public safety.
I don't think you can either, but we still have a responsibility to.
And I think that time will come. But this is just letting the public know that we're doing a proactive approach, taking a proactive approach to show them, me and you will show them that we are taking public safety serious and it is on our mind. And we just, this is what it's about.
So the teeth of this legislation right here, will this have to be supported in a bill to actually fund this? Because it says supporting additional appropriations for
And
the
that's
Metro
in the-
Area Crime Suppression Unit. So is it just us saying we support it, or are we asking to fund it?
We're asking, this is to let them know that we are going to support Aaliyah and whatever their ask is to do this, their suppression.
So this is not the funding mechanism for it. This is
No.
okay. So
This is just a warm and fuzzy.
This is the warm and fuzzy to say that we support this.
And we take public safety serious.
So the funding measure for this will actually come through the general fund,
If you're on
and
the
we will
general
have
fund,
an opportunity.
it'll come through your committee.
Okay, so the general fund chair is okay with this?
He hadn't voiced anything. I have heard nothing negative on this at all.
I don't think it's a negative thing. I think we just need to make sure we can afford to do it.
Yeah, and I think being a lawmaker to me, and I think you're the same way, public safety is number one. Our public in Alabama and people in my district and that state, that's number one to me. To make sure they're safe, their kids are safe, they can go to the grocery store and not have to worry about it.
I agree with you. I just don't want to give a false sense of security by making people feel safe if we can afford to do it. I just want to make sure that we could afford to do the things that we say that we want to do to make them safe.
I agree with you, and I
thank you,
appreciate it.
Representative Ingram, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question for the body now is passage of HJR 3.0. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Clerk, call up the next resolution.
House Joint Resolution Number 50 by Representative DuBose recognizing April 17th, 2025 as Buckets of Smile Day.
Move for adoption.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had my light on.
You're going to be talking about buckets of smile. That's what this resolution's about, Mr. Jackson.
I got a big smile in a little bucket,
Thank you.
but I still had my light on before Mr. Pringle was here. I wanted to ask him about who's going to be doing the Bible study, because I wanted to be a part of that study. You're having Bible study at 11 o'clock. I want to be there and see who's going to show up. But buckets and smile, can you give me a little bit of explanation what the bucket is?
Sure, I'd be happy to get the resolution sponsor up here, and she can break down about every bucket and every smile that's part of it. So let me see if I can track her down. 1 second.
All right, because I'm really, I need a few smiles around here. And see, as we approach this beautiful day, we like to know exactly why and when. And we can't get recognized when I turn our lights on. And then you can vote, you pass a resolution, and then you bring up another one. Then oh, here come the lady with the smile. I want to see the bucket.
Okay. What can I help you with, Representative?
Oh, you mentioned something about buckets and smile. Could you give the people of Alabama what your rationale is about both of those?
Okay, so that is creating a day called Buckets of Smile that is supporting one of my Miss Alabama girls whose platform is for childhood cancer. And what they do is they have these buckets of child-friendly things that they take to these children that are suffering from cancer and deliver it to them. It's also a fundraiser for cancer for children.
So that really
raised like 60.
So that should make someone smile, and they carry it in a bucket.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, that's a good cause.
Yeah.
We all support.
It creates a lot of smiles among children with cancer.
I mean, you have smiles among any sickness when somebody
right.
come bring some, especially children.
That's
but
right.
It's a worthy cause. But we just didn't know what the buckets and smile was all about, because in Alabama they come up with anything to make us to get your attention.
Yeah, I understand.
But this cause is
Yeah,
real.
this is a good one. Oh yeah, this is
A very
really,
good cause.
It's legit.
Because we do things for our little children and for all people that are ill, but especially our children.
That's right.
Because
And that's
cancer is a monster.
Yes, sir.
And I had family members over in Memphis at the hospital there. They had bone cancer as a child.
Yeah, that's so hard. That is just
And we would go over there every weekend and spend time with them, and it's a blessing that research center there in Memphis has done so much for so many.
Yeah,
And I was thinking about while they was there, how they didn't have to pay for anything while they was there, and they're cured, cancer-free right now. An adult child now, woman with children.
That's a miracle. That's
And so when you think about smiles, every morning people will come through that center and they will have a smile on their face and encouraging those little sick young children.
That's right. And
that
that's
there's
what this
greater
does.
hope out there. And I appreciate what you're doing, but Well, I was just concerned about the smile and then the bucket. You're bringing a bucket full of joy.
Yeah, this is a legitimate issue. It's helping.
The goodies inside where they can enjoy.
Yes.
Plus, it's a fundraiser
Yes.
for a long term.
Yes. I can get you a copy of the resolution.
Is this Jefferson? Is this UAB or USA?
UAB. Yeah, this is a local girl.
I can't talk on that too much longer, but I want to thank you for what you do when it comes to these issues. But I want to encourage our speakers to recognize my light when he put it on. That's what I'm doing. That's what I want. I come in here with a light because I want to talk about things that already done gone by.
Yeah.
But he flipped the script on me this morning, come out bucking and smiles. I can't do but love the children and smile when you bring them a bucket of joy. Thank you so much.
That's right. Thank you, Representative.
All those in favor of the resolution say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Chairman.
Got one more.
Senate Joint Resolution number 13 by Senator Butler, recognizing February 2025 as American Heart Month.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Ms. Clerk, did we get HJR 50 and also 49? Okay, thank you. Ms. Clerk, let's call the uncontested local bills.
On page 13 of the calendar, House Bill number 210 by Representative Wood R. relating to Calhoun County.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson. Representative Jackson, you want to talk on this local bill? I'm sure they'll want to talk on yours. Okay. Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 6 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. Question for the body now is adoption, passage of HB 210. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 32 ayes, 0 nays. HB 210 has passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, House Bill number 213 by Representative Gidley relating to Calhoun County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 49 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question for the body's final passage of HB 213. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 18 ayes, 0 nays. HB 213 has passed. Clerk, call up the next bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, House Bill number 215 by Representative Robertson relating to Calhoun County.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 55 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Question now is final passage of HB 215. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the bill, record the votes. 15 ayes, 1 nay. HB 215 has passed. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a resolution.
Clerk, see the resolution.
House Resolution number 67 by the House Rules Committee, the special order calendar.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ringo, Representative McCampbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Gentleman Yield.
Yes, sir.
What legislative day is this? I think, the 7th.
7th legislative day. Yes, sir.
Day. So we have 23 more legislative days to go. And we have, a pretty good calendar, I think, today. And I know your patent answer is you have a good calendar every day. Is not that your patent answer?
Well, that's my hope and desire to have a calendar that be appeasing for you and the people we represent. So that's how we start off every day.
That's how it starts off every day. But some days I guess we just don't quite get where we need to get, huh? You think that may be an accurate assessment?
Sure. Well, I'm a lot of things. Perfect's not one of them. So it's not always going to be a perfect calendar, but
You say
something specific today that you have a question about?
Yeah, I guess I could. Are these some of the bills that were a part of the governor's task force on policing and law enforcement? Some of these bills related to that?
There's a collection of legislation that we're trying to do to help support law enforcement in this state, to help keep our people safe, help with retention of our police officers, and make sure that those that are choosing this for career will have opportunities not only for themselves, but for maybe their families, and try to keep the best and brightest employed in that avenue if they so choose to make it a career. And I think some other bills may be coming, but some of these bills are related to that initiative to help make our best and brightest when it comes to Back to Blue.
So I think that first bill is probably one of the more popular bills in the package. I think it is one that hopefully all of us would concede that we need to be helping law enforcement, because in reality we don't pay our first responders, actually according to the danger that they are in the current environment and current culture. So for us to be looking at creating a scholarship program for the dependents of law enforcement officers, I think it is a tool that can be used to help retain, our law enforcement officers that are coming into the profession, as well as those that are already there. And I guess I asked the sponsor of the legislation how it's going to actually operate once we get the bill on the floor. But I was glad to see that you and I kind of agree on this, and we put this one in the first position. And I see the second bill that we have on there is one dealing with youthful offenders and electronic monitoring. I've had some conversation with the sponsor, and I've had some conversation with the governor's office and with others. And I think there are some things that we will be bringing forward that will be able to help make that bill a lot better bill in terms of what we are trying to do. You know, I don't think we want to paint every juvenile in this state that even those that are considered incorrigible, those that, you know, may skip school, because I know you did that a time or two. I mean, I did that a time.
My
a
mom
time or
is listening,
two.
so I'm not going to admit to any school skipping.
Yeah, but there were probably some times that we may have fallen into this law. And I think the little devious things that we do that are not actually criminal, but because of our status as youth or as juveniles, would make it something that would entail law enforcement at some point in time getting involved. I know when I was in law enforcement, we had what we call CHINs. We also had CHINs facilities, and that's children in need of supervision. And those facilities were not the same as the detention facilities. But I understand that has changed, and I guess it's budget strains and things of that nature that have caused us to remove the CHINs facilities from our state, and now every child falls under the detention facilities. Question, do you, just with that in mind, do you think it might be good if we looked at some way of probably reinstating the CHINs facilities? Because that's a different class of offender. And as I said, but we've been working with the governor's office and the sponsor, and I think we will have something that will make it closer to what the intent of the legislation is. I think that is coming, and I appreciate, us having the opportunity to actually sit down and look at and work on that legislation. I'm trying to see what else. Veteran Resource Center. That's real good. That's going to be one that will help veterans in their life of transition. Because when you come out of a structured environment and you're transitioning into this free world that we supposedly live in here, it may be a little challenging. So it hopefully it will be something that will help our veterans have a better process of transitioning. So what else do we have on here that is worthy? I know you're saying all of them are worthy. I'm going to say it for you so you can answer my question with something else. I've taken your line, so now you give me another one.
Well, a lot of your questions may be for these individual sponsors I can't answer. So as far as the makeup and the layout of the couch.
Depression and mental issues at the time, it's going to allow them to, turn into their weapons so they couldn't hurt themselves. I'm
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair recognizes the lady from Mobile, Representative Drummond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chair yield?
Absolutely.
How are you today?
Great. How about yourself, Mr. Ross?
This is actually, I think, the first bill on this calendar. I actually like it because I am a big proponent of dual enrollment, and especially for law enforcement officers. Have you read the bill?
I have.
How much money are we going to be spending?
I can't remember the allocation was, but
I can't hear you,
I
sir.
can't remember the allocations we've got to that. There's some amendments coming that I don't have those amendments, and I don't know what exactly else is going to be amended. So be
Okay.
something for the sponsor at the right
Well, I know that when it came through our committee, it was about 10, I think the physical note was $10 million on it.
I can't remember exactly. A lot of bills, but-
And then there was a good amendment put on that bill, I think by Representative Keel, that would do the black tag for law enforcement. And I think that we need to do things to back our blue, as you sort of say. So that's a good piece of legislation, but I like it for the reason that it's going to expose so many young people to dual enrollment. I think that Alabama has done a good job of creating a good program to expose our kids to college life. And as I've said so many times, I'm a proponent of the workforce, but I think sometimes we get so overwrought that we just keep pushing workforce and we forget about those that are in four-year colleges. So I'm happy to see this, and I would hope that every member of this body would promote dual enrollment. Don't you agree with me?
I think dual enrollment can be a great thing for a lot of people. Sure do.
Why didn't they include firefighters?
I don't know. There's a lot of different programs for firefighters already.
Because I think they
as well.
put their lives on the line every day.
I don't disagree. So
Let's go to the next bill. The next bill, Representative Hendricks' bill. That's also another one that's in our crime package, correct?
and our back to blue package.
And I really want to thank you for working with Representative Hendricks on putting a few amendments on there that will make sure that we look out for everybody.
Sure. I appreciate Hendricks carrying the bill. He knows firsthand what interactions with people is with his job on the police force, and I'm glad to have him involved in this package and look forward to voting for that bill.
Well, you know, I'm glad he's carrying it, and he's one of the Democrats that will have an effective bill that's going to make an impact on the environment of communities in the state of Alabama. So Democrats can do something right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, the one that I really like on this bill, and we've had it before, and that's the 3Qing. And I actually went and talked to some educators this weekend, and I said, tell me, what do you think about banning 3Qing? And they stood there and they said, it should be banned. What do you think?
I think if people in the education community that do it every day are advising it should be banned, then I think it's something we should consider. And this is an issue that's been considered for a long time, and I think that the studies show that's not a long-term effect for the majority of people for
What
learning how-
studies? I have not seen a study to show that that's effective.
Not showing that it's not effective.
Oh, that it's not effective.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that some studies that were done by the educational community?
Or parallel organizations. I just remember seeing some main highlights from those studies as we've had this issue come along.
Well, see, I think we need to do everything we can to employ methods of teaching our kids, because the children that are coming up today, they have these computerized brains,
Oh, they do.
you know. So I think that's a really, really good method. Can you tell me about the wiretapping bill that's on here? Unfortunately, I'm not giving it the close scrutiny that I usually do.
I really can't get in the weeds like the sponsor can, but the main thing is just some of the corrective language that would help with dealing with having interpreters involved, whether there's a language barrier. I do know that, but anything deeper would be something for Chairman Reynolds when he's up here.
What's the physical note on having those interpreters? Because I'm sure we'll have to pay for them, right?
No, I'll get him to whisper in my ear about the fiscal note.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a really good bill. Thank you, sir.
Certainly said don't have a true measure on the dollar amount, but when he
I'm sorry, I can't
don't have
hear
a
you.
true measure on the dollar amount that would be affected by this, but he will give some numbers as far as the number of seizures evolved from this and some impacts this would make with this change. So he said he's got a lot of information he's going to share at the appropriate time.
Okay, are we going to have the bill on the calendar and take action on it, and we're not
it's
going
on
to know
the
what to spend on it?
It's on the calendar.
Yeah, I know, but we're going to pass it without knowing how much money it's going to cost us?
No, we'll have a debate on it. I think.
Well, I
he
don't
knows
want
the
to
numbers,
debate it.
but-
I just want to know how much it's going to cost us. I think with our diverse community,
Sure.
I think having interpreters is a good thing.
Sure, and I think some things that's hard to measure based on how much it will be utilized or not. Sometimes you just don't know, and it may be one of those situations where they try to measure as much things up front, but this may not be something to truly measure without it being in place, and that's something that Chairman Reynolds certainly can share about appropriate time. But I think giving them those tools, like you stated, that with our language barriers we have in our society today, that incorporating interpreters in a lot of different things will be the reality of where we are.
Oh, okay. Do we have a problem with people not understanding what their rights are, or?
I'm not sure exactly what it is from understanding the rights versus understanding some things that may be just part of that wiretap. That's something the sponsor can elaborate on more during the appropriate time.
Tell me a little bit about H134, which is Representative Ingram's bill dealing with those fines, and where will that money be going? Will it be going to the general fund?
Which one?
HB 134, which is motor vehicle disbursement of fines and fees for driving without a license.
It go to the counties and the municipalities to help with their funding for law enforcement.
So it will only go, the 100% of it will go to the county, or is there a split or a percentage for both?
Okay, for the handicap, 100% would go to the cities and municipalities, and then for the other ones, it would just be half would go to the counties.
Is there any restrictions or earmarks as to what the counties and the cities can use that money for? So it will be only for law enforcement purposes? It doesn't define what those purposes are?
No, just broadly for law enforcement.
Okay, do we have any idea of how much money that's likely to create for us? I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
It's hard to measure how many violators they have of that. This just gives an enforcement tool that enhances that enforcement for the violations and then creates a path for those monies to return directly back into law enforcement hands.
So with cities, it will go to their police departments, and with the county, it will go to the sheriff's office. What about those other law enforcements? Are we doing anything with the state since we have ALEA?
Well,
I'm sorry, the other money does what? Why is it 100% on to the cities for disabilities? You might want to get on the mic. Okay.
And he'll have a moment up here when we get to that bill.
Okay.
I'm sure he'll break it down, and y'all welcome to meet off sidebar, and I'm sure he'll explain every bit of it. But the whole key one
Well,
is
anything
to
we can do
try
to
keep people
support,
from-
anything we can do to support law enforcement, especially funding for cities and counties. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sure, thanks, lady. You're recognized as a lady from Montgomery, Representative Morris.
Thank you. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you today?
Awesome. It's always great to come and have a conversation with you about this calendar.
Sure. I'm glad you feel we need to talk about it. Happy to answer any questions I can.
Okay, so I just have a couple of questions. I had a couple of people who are listening and would like to know, how do a bill get on the pick list?
Well, certainly. Once a bill has gone through the committee process, then the sponsor can fill out a form for it to be under consideration for the Rules Committee. The reason we have that form is we don't want to move forward a bill that the sponsor is not ready to move forward with. So once that bill has been requested to move forward, then we start diving to make sure, one, did everything get done in committee that they were intended to do? Does it have the same intended consequences that they're looking for? Does it balance out with the policy that we're looking to do with that action? Does it follow the right procedures for what we're trying to do? And then it becomes a part of consideration through the pick list. And then once we have that pick list in place, then that would go to the entire committee, and we would move through the process of vetting and as you know, as you've had a bill before, you go to members of the Rules Committee and ask them to consider for a vote for your bill, and of those selections, we make the selections to do a special order calendar, and that's the kind of calendar we have today based on the selections made from the committee as a whole.
The order calendar, how do you get the bills aligned? Is it a certain way that you want them 1, 2, 3, or is it just randomly?
Well, there's certain things. You know, we have special events days like next Tuesday, Space Day. So we're going to be doing a bill to start the day dealing with the Space and Rocket Center. So that'll be the first bill of the calendar for the day. And today we have a theme of Back in the Blue that we're trying to get through a package of bills that's important for our state to try to back up our police officers. And so the Speaker made a selection for his first bills on his selection as part of the Rules Committee selections to have those bills at the forefront of the calendar today. And then it rolls to the chairman, then the vice chair, and then it goes to the ranking member, and then it goes through seniority in the committee process of how that calendar goes.
Okay, that's awesome. Glad.
Sure.
I hope they actually, learned a little something about rules today. As the chair, is it difficult to try to keep? I saw when they was coming down and they was asking you about the different bills on the special order calendar. Is it difficult to try to keep up because we have a lot of bills?
Well, it's a lot in the process, but I enjoy the process, and it's just a balance to try to make sure each of you as members are heard, and we have constituents that reach out to my office as well. We have special interest groups that reach out, and there's a lot of advocates on either side of most legislation, and you just balance that and sharpen that bill to where it needs to be. And a lot of that is done in the committee process and before it even arrives to rules. So it's not really that much of a labor when you're enjoying it, and I enjoy it. So
Awesome. I enjoy being here also, right? Okay, so let's talk about just a couple of them that's on here that, one of them is the dual enrollment, right? Or let's just talk about the scholarship programs to create for dependents of long-term law officers. You know, back in our blue is something that we should do. I mean, we know we have to have some type of law and order, but it has to go on both sides, right? So we have to have some law and order for citizens as well as back in the blue. Glad that we are actually putting some funds behind it, hoping that it comes with a little more training, right? It have to have training inside the community. So how long have you been on the Rules Chair?
For 2 years.
2 years. And if a member submits a bill, about how long does it take before it make it to Rules?
Once they've done the form, it immediately is being considered. It's right now we don't have a lot of bills that have rolled out of committee. That'll process will certainly amplify as we go through the session, and it varies. Sometimes it could be the next legislative day, sometimes it could be a month, and sometimes it may not make it that year because we have almost 500 bills filed this year between both houses, and we won't pass anywhere near that. So we're still going to have a lot of pieces of legislation, I'm sure, introduced between now and the end of session, and it's just a balance of trying to get through what we can, what we think's important for the people we represent, and so that could certainly vary as far as the timeline.
Okay, and what's the time frame for once it hit Rules and it comes out of Rules? If it does not make it, what's the process for going back around? Do you just pick it all back over? How does that work? If I have a bill and my bill, just let's say that the session ends for today and I leave, what happens with that bill?
Certainly, we reassess the pick list for our committee daily. Usually, once I've gotten the calendar approved, I sit down and start looking at the legislation for the next legislative day. And that's what I'll do today is look what we have before us, what's available to move forward, what needs to, what doesn't need to, and then lean on the committee for support of setting up our calendar for Thursday. And then we're already looking ahead to next week and the following week, and certain things I know are in place that'll, as the legislative process goes, and start trying to make up our calendar until we sign it out.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I enjoyed talking to you today.
Always a pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How you doing, Mr. Chair?
I'm doing great. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing okay. You know, like a lot of others, when I leave here on Thursday, I'm trying to get home because I have a lot of work to do. You know, we only have Thursday evenings, maybe, Friday, Saturday. I don't work on Sundays and Mondays to do what we have to do. And so it kind of, it delays me sometime when I'm working and making sure that everything I got going on is, you know, doing what it's supposed to do. Sometimes I'm able to, I don't look at the calendar until maybe that morning or when I get here. And so, and then looking at the calendar, I see some interesting bills on here. And I was listening earlier when you talked about the process of how bills are chosen. And it's one question that I have, a couple of questions. Do you read all of these bills?
I read most legislation that is moving forward, especially anything we're considering for rules.
So you do, or you just depending on the type of bill that it is. And when you are reading the bills, are you trying to determine that if those bills are going to help our people in Alabama?
Well, I tell people all the time that in the Rules Committee, we work at the intersection of policy, procedure, and politics.
Okay.
Policy and procedure are the easy. Politics is the one that takes more discussion, and it's a balance. We want to work to try to make sure we're moving the best bills forward. And sometimes what's best for our people is to not move that legislation forward. And also tell people sometimes it takes 3 weeks to pass a terrible bill, but it takes 3 years to pass a great bill. And after 3 years, it's been vetted, it's been looked at, it's been discussed, it's been debated and honed into what the real issue is. And, you know, that seems to be true time and time again. So sometimes we get it right. Sometimes there's something we miss. We have to come back and amend. And but it's always a balance trying to do what's best for the people of Alabama, just as you do for the people you represent in your district as well.
So are the bills categorized? Do you categorize them based on which bills maybe Mr. Speaker pick, or which bills you as the chair pick, or which bills as far as the members of the Rules Committee choose?
Well, certainly there's a characterization. Like our hope today is to launch a mission of making sure that the people that serve in our law enforcement know that we have their back and support them. And the first bills on the calendar do that in different ways, and they're a priority for the speaker. And so that's why he made those his selections for the calendar today.
You know, I'm easy most of the time, and I believe in being decent and in order. I believe in being fair. And I you know, I'm looking at the calendar, and I'm gonna have questions, you know, and I don't get up much. But if I have questions, you know, I'm going to inquire about what I want to know. But I will be glad, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, when we can start addressing like hunger, you know, in our state, expanding our food assistance programs, and seeing community-based solution, meaning investing in our community food banking. I would like to see us improving our school meal programs, and also reducing food waste, you know, because we do have a lot of food waste that's going on. And, you know, and these are some of the things that I would like to see on our calendar. I would like to see us tackle homelessness, you know, and to increase affordable housing is one of the things that I'm trying to do. I would like us to end, you know, the criminalization of homelessness as well. You know, to write myself notes. I would like to see us expanding supportive housing models. You know, these are things that I feel that we need. And one of the most important things that I would like to see us do is improving mental health services. And we deal with that on a daily basis. Even with our men in blue, you know, they have to determine on if this is a person that's doing really bad things, or is this a person with a mental illness? And so we need to know, how do you determine that? Then what happens to that person when you do determine the issue of what's going on with this particular person? Am I making sense?
It does.
And I would like to see us having job training and support. I remember last week, job training kept coming up on one of the bills. And I would like, and I don't think that is that we don't have training in areas. I think that we need to advertise it more, that there is different type of trainings that people can take in order to do what needs to be done. I think we need more educational support. I think we need child care support for working families. You know, you do have some businesses where you can bring your kids to work, and you know, you don't have that stress on you, and you're not paying another house note just to have your kid, you know, at a daycare. So those are some of the things that I would like to see on the calendar. We need to also, for me, address universal health care access. You know, we need to think about the substance abuse. You know, so these are some of the things that I would like to see on the calendar. And that's why I asked were things categorized as far as what go on the calendar, how we're helping to benefit all of our constituents. Because the things that I'm needing is not a Republican thing. It's not a Democratic thing. It's a everybody thing, because these are things that everybody need, and we need to start looking out for our constituents that's gonna help our constituents. And I'm just talking about everybody, you know, not just this person or this party, but for all parties. And you know, and sometimes it bothers me when you got important bills out there that can actually help everybody. That can help everybody. We need to talk about the universal basic income, better job benefits, and wage increase. You know, those are some things I would love to see on the calendar. We need to talk about encouraging collaboration between government, nonprofit, and private in the private sector. So these are some of the things that I feel like that we need to address, and some of the things that we need to talk about, some of the things that we need to have on the calendar in order to make it a better state. In order for people to be able to reach out and say, you know, my representatives helped me. My representatives, they didn't look at this or that. They looked at what I was going through. You know, and most of my bills are based on helping people, because I love people, you know, I love communities, you know, and I like to see progression of things, not regress, you know. And so those are some of the things that I would like to see on the calendar. And hopefully, in the near future, we'll see more of the topics that I talked about, because it is needed. And we cannot neglect these topics and these issues that I just mentioned, because our people are hurting out there. And sometimes we come up with bills that's not helping, you know, and it ain't a party thing. It's an everybody thing, you know, and we need to help. We are the folks that they put in office to help them so they can feel good, you know, so they can feel like they're accomplishing something. And so those are the things that I would like to see. And hopefully some of my colleagues would like to see the same thing. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sure, thanks, lady. We have a few guests in the gallery from Cleveland County. Sophia Swafford from Heflin, the guest of Representative Chad Roberts. Let's give her a big hand. Thank you for being with us today. Also from Tuscaloosa County, Nicole Barnett, Representative Bolton's guest. Let's give them a big hand. Thank you for being with us today. To recognize the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Rafferty.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. So, you know, I was just looking through the calendar here today, just kind of going over it all, and just kind of wanted to ask, you know, one thing that particularly caught my eye was this HB 188, and I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit more about it. Also curious, I mean, do you read all the bills that come across your desk, or end up going on the pick list?
Well, I read the ones that's being considered by our committee, and then sometimes the amendments come to me, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I've just told about certain aspects of the amendments. I know with this bill, the sponsors got some amendments that's agreed upon to make them better in their eyes, and certainly today these bills, especially to start our calendar, are back to the law enforcement encouragement, not only to enter the workforce in that category of work, but also to retain the good officers we have, like in Birmingham where you are, where we need officers more than ever, it seems. Even in a district like mine, we struggle to hire officers. Working in the fire service, we used to have a position come available. We'd have people from all over the country apply for one position. And now we're struggling just to fill some positions sometimes, and that's on the fire side. And so with the police side, sometimes the struggle is even harder to try to find those. And I think our whole package dealing with law enforcement is trying to find ways to create more opportunities in the eyes of those not only serving, but those that are looking to serve in those areas. And I think that we can all agree that really law enforcement shouldn't be political. Some of the aspects of it can be debated, but when it comes down to standing behind those officers that will support us, that protect us, and are always out there looking out for us and our loved ones is certainly an important thing. And any way we can find to support them in that role, I'm certainly for it and open to the discussion.
Sure thing. I mean, particularly we're talking about these long-term law enforcement officers. We're talking about folks who have a lot of institutional knowledge, who've been on the field for a long time. It's kind of irreplaceable what they bring to the table, as well as what they can teach to the new generation of officers that are coming. What are we considering a long-term law enforcement officer in this case, though?
What was that again? What would we consider what?
Yeah, well, how is a long-term law enforcement officer qualified?
That'd be something for the sponsor to have to answer. I'm not sure exactly what quantifies that distinction, and I don't want to steer you wrong on that.
Very well. Yeah, I mean, I could have looked that up, but I had some questions here. So, do you know what kind of qualifying criteria would be for their dependents to get it? Is it just you have to be in law enforcement long enough and retire, or do you have to, die in the line of duty or get hurt in the line of duty?
That'd be more a question for the sponsor, because I'm not sure what the amendments are that's coming as well.
Right, yeah.
I haven't seen those. I know that I understand they're friendly amendments, but I don't want to steer you wrong for something that may pertain to that.
Gotcha.
So, but I know that sponsor's worked in law enforcement for many years and very aware in tune with what the officers need today, and certainly excited about supporting the bill and any amendments that he deems as friendly amendments to help enhance the bill.
Right. So I guess the fiscal notes maybe changed a little bit with the amendments or anything like that?
Maybe I'm not sure the extent of it, but hopefully it's a way to improve already good legislation.
Well, it's very kind of similar to the GI dependent scholarship that we have here too, correct? Sure. Kind of that pro-military, pro-law enforcement officer. Well, I agree. I think I'll probably be liking that bill. I can't wait to hear from the sponsor a little bit more about it. One thing I'm really excited about here is this Alabama Veterans Resource Center. I've been involved in some of those kind of discussions and deliberations, and just wanted to see, what you thought of that bill.
Well, I tell you, I had a constituent reach out to me last year that was a veteran and made a very emotional plea to me that when he stepped out from his service for our country, he feels like he was just dumped out into society. Mm-hmm. He said he knew that there was a lot of resources available, not only for job placement, not only for mental health, not only for finances, but he really did not know how to connect to those. Where in his time of service, he felt that everything was placed. He was marching in a straight line with everything in his life, but when he stepped away from that duty, he felt lost. And that certainly hit home with me. I didn't have a true answer for him. My feeling was there was a lot more things available that would help. And the truth is there are a lot of things available.
Absolutely.
And, we just don't know exactly where and how to connect those that need it with the resources available. And I'm excited about the opportunity for this, and this is, taking care of our veterans is just like a lot of issues. It's not one thing; it's everything.
Right.
Try to find everything you can to try to push and help that issue.
A kind of holistic kind of approach.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think this is a huge step forward. I think that it's just one more step that will help those, such as that gentleman that reached out to me. We'll have a way as serving members to direct people to, and certainly, hopefully, they will find it on their own easily. And and a lot of things, veterans deal with a lot of life issues that a lot of people do. Sometimes they deal with a little bit more just because of the service that they've done for our country. And anything we can do to try to make that transition back to life as normal, whatever that normal is, I think is important.
Nothing could be more important than that. I mean, I remember, coming back, trying to transition back into life, and all the paperwork and kind of bureaucracy, and it was take this form here, you got to get that form signed here, you got to go over here. I feel like there's been a lot of really great improvements that have been made in this kind of connecting folks and connecting vets with these resources, particularly in centers where they're going to be able to see a brother or sister in arms as well, where they're going to be able to find somebody that's already been through it with them that can kind of help guide them through it. So I'm really excited about seeing what this kind of one-stop shop is. That kind of what we're kind of looking at. Yep, one-stop shop on all those transition services, whether it's the VA loans, right? Whether it's the GI Bill benefits. This is what paid for my school. But there were some hiccups there, right? So, I mean, I remember having to write my senator, I think it was Senator Sessions back in the time, and be like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm having to pay out of pocket for my tuition. I just don't know what, I was fed up. My hands were thrown up in the air, but they were able to figure it out and sort it out for me. And that's actually why, back when I was in school, I co-founded the Student Veterans Association of America at the UAB chapter to make sure that, I could be there as a resource to help other veterans and folks that were kind of coming back into civilian life, the ability to navigate those kind of issues with more ease so they wouldn't have the same kind of issues that maybe I encountered. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what ends up happening with this. Any other bills you're particularly excited about on this calendar?
I'm just excited about all of it. I really, really excited that there's this many people that want to talk about the calendar. That's really good that people pay attention and are excited about it. I feel like we will have a good vote, good debate, and probably a limited debate with most of these issues. I feel that everyone's pretty much on the same page, especially dealing with our police officers and our veterans, and I just want to thank you for your service as well. So appreciate you.
Well, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the recognition, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body's adoption of the calendar. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk, call first bill.
On page 2 of the calendar, House Bill number 188 with substitute by Representative Treadaway relating to scholarships.
Chairman Treadway, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I've got a good friend watching us from Chicago named Bruce Hill. He's not been very impressed so far, so I got a bill here that I believe can bring us all together. This bill, House Bill 188, establishes the Alabama Law Enforcement Officers Family Scholarship Program, designed to provide financial assistance for college tuition and associated expenses to eligible dependents of long-term law enforcement officers. The program is administered by the Alabama Commission on Higher Education and applies to undergraduate programs and participating public technical schools, colleges, and universities in the state of Alabama. All you have to do to be qualified is be a law enforcement officer with 7 years or more at the same department, or 12 years if you have been employed by multiple departments. Your spouse, your children 27 years or younger are eligible, and it is funded in a couple ways. One way is the $10 million from the ETF. And I do have a sub at the proper time, Mr. Speaker, that we will deal with in a minute that has a distinguished tag that would also bring another designated revenue source into the system. The scholarships coverage covers 8 semesters or 12 quarters, $3,000 per academic period. Scholarships are secondary to financial aid, covering the cost by public or private scholarship grants and gifts. And with that, Mr. Speaker, if there's no questions, I move for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, I rise for such an occasion as this. I rise for a number of reasons because I have been one for the last 15 years. I'm going to do my best to always speak truth to power. And I'm going to always show gratitude where gratitude is a must and is necessary. And especially in a day and time in which we are living. And I want to stand, Mr. Speaker, and if you would allow the chamber to quieten down just for a second. Because this is a very serious issue. Many of you have asked me today about the blue, and is this for Back the Blue? Well, I support law enforcement. I'm thankful and I'm grateful to every individual, man or woman, that stands and wears the blue and takes an oath to protect and serve. But last year, I went to the Speaker. I had several conversations with my colleagues. Representative Alan Treadaway and I speak about 15 to 20 times a day. This is serious. Listen, we speak because many of you know we work together at the city of Birmingham, and we've been friends ever since. But I said to Representative Treadaway, as he's called me and I've called him, to deal with this issue of crime in the city of Birmingham, addressing the issue of law enforcement numbers. And when we speak of numbers, it's the number of sworn officers, the crimes that have taken place over the course of the last few years. And I want to take this opportunity, members, to thank the Speaker. Because when we went to him last year, during this session, we said to him that there is a situation and we're in a near pandemic in Birmingham. Men and women, boys and girls, young and old, are dying to gun violence. And he did not hesitate to act, starting last year, putting money in the budget for a mentoring program, taking my calls in the middle of the night, in the middle of the morning, listening to my prayers and my calls. And I want to simply say to you, Mr. Speaker, that if anyone comes to Montgomery and sends a notice out to employees to tell them that they support a piece of legislation, they need to do it knowing and saying that it was members of the House of Representatives via the Speaker that this package of bills to fight crime throughout our state went over to the governor's office as a plea for support. So I wanted to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to say thank you. Thank you for doing what you did. Thank you for your help and your support. But I also rise to say thank you to Representative Alan Treadaway, one of the finest men ever to put on the uniform in law enforcement. Listen, when Alan Treadaway, Alan was a union man. And I worked for Richard Arrington, and he was that one person that every day, in every meeting, council meeting, we had to be prepared for. Because he came in prepared and ready to support law enforcement. But today I'm rising to say thank you for the legislation as the lead off to this package of bills. But I'm also rising for those that may sit in this chamber, and thank you for the calls over the summer to question why I was raising so much cane about crime. This young man right here, I knew him before he was formed in his mother's womb. Was killed 28 days on duty at a Birmingham fire station, a place that is thought to be one of the safest places in the world. And Treadaway may get a little emotional. This man right here, Watasha Carter, Sergeant Watasha Carter, a friend. I walk the street every day where his blood flowed in the streets of Birmingham every day. So when I raised this issue of this crime, I remember Treadaway standing there that morning with tears in his eyes because he had lost a fallen partner, or a police officer. This number here that I raised, and it's going to be modified because I have to modify it either every other week. 1,077 deaths. This is just the city of Birmingham alone since 2017. And this would have been a little bit larger, but the board was too big. Last year, 150 people killed in the city of Birmingham. I don't have time to stand here and play. I don't have time to come here on this issue when I receive a call in the morning from a mother yelling, "My child." That's my child that has been brutally killed and gunned down. This is a serious matter. I should not have to call the speaker to beg him for help. Representative Sellers and Tillman and Hendricks and others should not have had to make the plea for help. 3 mass killings, 4 of the young men that were killed I would speak to almost every day. Over 60% of the deaths that are taking place within the city of Birmingham are within District 60. And it's not because the areas are so bad. It's because they have become so dormant because we do not have enough law enforcement officers. 2 police. And someone would dare give a report to say that we're only short 233 officers. Birmingham has roughly only about 370 sworn law enforcement officers, boots on the ground, for a city with nearly 190,000 people. So this bill becomes very important as a part of what we need. And for those who are in the corporate community, we all bear a responsibility. We bear a responsibility to tell the people and the citizens the truth about the number of sworn law enforcement officers that represent them. That is why the speaker asked me to sponsor in last week. HB 287 is critical. So I stand here today to thank you, Alan. I stand here today to say thank you to Travis Hendricks, who puts his life on the line every day, just as Watasha Carter did, special task force and things of that nature. Thank you, Travis Hendricks, for your service. And he and I have had multiple conversations about these issues, so it's nothing new, but I wanted to rise to say thank you. Representative Treadaway, I know the scope of this bill. It is needed to do what we need to do to get law enforcement working throughout the state of Alabama. We're not the only city that is experiencing problems, but we right now continue to be the poster child. Birmingham last year was dubbed as Murderham. This year is dubbed as Killingham. This isn't about me or an individual. It is about the citizens who continue day in and day out to not have the best, most appropriate information. Not just from this commission report. We've been preaching community policing. There was a report done in 2021 that was commissioned. Harvard University prepared. So Representative Treadaway, I thank you. And I thank you for your efforts with this bill. But I am tired of seeing bodies dropping and excuses being made. It's not the legislature's fault. It is not. And I will no longer stand here and allow anybody not to rub shoulders, to rub elbows, to be a part of, to give fake, phony reports, news conferences to bolster a position. I will not do that, not for anybody. I represent law enforcement officers, my office does. I know the stories, and I know what they go through. And thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Representative Treadaway.
Chair, thanks, lady.
Thank you.
Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I do have a substitute, and at the appropriate time, I have an amendment.
Clerk, receive this. You got. You care to explain your sub that you had in committee, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. And before I do, let me thank you and the governor for including this in a part of your public safety package. I brought this bill last year without the funding, and it was the speaker that adopted it and was able to get the funding. Also, in committee, we have an amendment that added a distinguished tag. I think they call it an honor tag, a memorial tag, and it's been another stream of revenue into this education fund. So that was added, and then there was technical languages that was added. There was some different areas that needed to be moved, and that's really all the sub does.
Okay, there, you heard the explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine, the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. You want me to go ahead and explain the amendment that I'm offering?
Okay, clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 188 by Representative Treadaway.
Chairman Treadaway, care to explain it?
Yes, sir. On replaces line 41 through 45 on page 2 with the following. Eligible dependent, an individual who on the date of applying for the scholarship provided under this article is not eligible for the police officer survivors education assistance provided under Article 5 of this chapter. Basically what it's saying, if you were killed in the line of duty, your children, your spouse already has these benefits. If you qualify under that article in the state law, you don't qualify for this. That's all that does. And down at the bottom, the correct where it says 8 semesters or 12, it used to say 16, but it's actually 12 instead of 16, and that's all the amendment does.
Yeah, you heard the explanation of the amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine, the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Amendment has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
If there's no other questions, Mr. Speaker, I move for final passage.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Sellers.
Speaker, with the gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Tread it. I just arose today to say thank you, Mr. Speaker, for hearing the voice crying in the wilderness. As every single day where we live or around where we live, we see such things as homicides every single day. Every morning we wake up to that. And so thank you for this package of certain bills. But thank you, Treadaway, for helping to lead that charge as we look at making our communities better every single day. And let's continue to be those voices crying in the wilderness. And hopefully one day somebody will hear it.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Question for the body is final passage of 188 as amended and substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. HB 188 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I've got a request for co-sponsors.
Okay, we have a request for co-sponsor. Ms. Clerk, if you will open up the machine. "96 co-sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you leave, let me say something real quick, if I can have a point of personal privilege. But Treadway is a little bit modest. He's the one that brought the attention to the committee on this particular bill. I think he'd seen Arkansas do it. Is that correct? And him, along with everybody that worked on it, I know we had 12 people around the table at one time, maybe more than that. So this is a cumulative effort of everybody. But Chairman Treadway, thank you for your work and your service.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, call for the next bill.
On page 2 of the calendar, House Bill number 199 by Representative Hendricks relating to juveniles.
Representative Hendricks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition.
Before you get started, we got a former member. Let me recognize Jamie Isom is in the chamber. I don't know where at, but they said she's in here. Oh, okay. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you. Representative?
All right, good evening, everyone. Well, today I bring before you HB 199. What this bill does, it provides or it allows Alabama Board of Pardons and Parole and any other state agency to provide electronic monitoring services to juvenile delinquents. The second part of this bill is that the reappeal of the 72-hour limitation and confinement of a status offender who has violated a valid court order. And that's basically what the bill does.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
Man. Yeah, I knew your boy was going to get it. Oh.
So, Representative Hendricks, that's Hendricks with the X,
Like
not
Jimmy, like
D-R-I-C-K.
Like Jimi Hendrix.
This your first bill. You wrote this bill yourself?
Yes,
So you know everything in this bill.
yes.
Tell me what's on page 2, line 52.
Oh, I have to tell you about that later.
I rise to, first of all, say thank you also. You and I have had multiple conversations. I know you get very emotional about this process because you're out there living it. But I also rose because I promised I would, just from a conversation with you last Tuesday, there was something that you said, and I remembered it. A friend of mine told me a long time ago, you need to see people sometimes and let people know that you see them. And so I'm not going to let this moment pass without telling you that I see you, for the simple fact you said something as we were talking, and you said, with everything that is going on, even me sitting at the table being honored to be a part of a process, no one asked you how you felt when you're out there in it every day, when you're responding to a homicide, when you see life and limb loss, or a simple accident or robbery. So I simply rise today to let you know that I see you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this piece of legislation. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to come here on your first bill as a member of the House. And so for that, I appreciate you, and I wanted you to know that personally. So if you don't mind, would you share with me about this bill, HB 199?
So basically, in a nutshell, it's really to help out probation officers as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, as you know, a lot of probation officers, they have a caseload they work well and beyond what they can do. Not only that, with this bill as well, it allow people like DYS and juvenile detention or juvenile justice service, it allowed them help probation officers as well with electronic monitoring. Because a lot of POs, they like I said, they have a million juveniles. It's kind of hard to monitor all those juveniles at the same time.
So with the electronic monitoring,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, we assume everybody knows what that is.
Right.
But everybody may not know, because I remember one year we had a bill and someone said to me, I just kind of looked at them and I said, well, you don't know what this is? And they were like, well, no. So I said, well, from that point, you can't assume. So would you explain what an electronic monitor does and how it impacts this bill?
So it's basically like it's a device that a juvenile delinquent puts on their leg, and while they're at home, they be monitored from for their particular crime. So it's basically just keeping tabs on what they're doing and where they at all times.
And would there be a requirement that they wear, as you mentioned, they would wear these once it is ordered by the court to wear that monitoring from whatever period that the court would order that?
Right.
But
It's up to the judge.
it's up to the judge, number one. Is there an age restriction?
Yes.
And what is the age?
I would say 10 years and older. So if you 11, 12, if you 11, 12 as well, depending on your situation, just say if you committed a crime with a gun, you'll be held, depending on what the court say, depending on the judge. If she decide to put an electronic monitor on your ankle, yes. But 10 years old, they don't do 10 years old.
So no 10-year-old requirement, but 11 and up then.
Right. If you violated or you committed a violent crime, like for example, just say you assaulted somebody or you theft or anything like that, depending on the judge, if she decide to put you on this monitor to not send you to juvenile detention, because you got to understand, you got a lot of juveniles and you got a lot of juvenile detentions, they overcrowded.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's bad in there. And prime example, I was thinking back a long time ago when I was a school resource officer at Jackson Hole High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this young man named DeAndre, 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, DeAndre, he was bad. I ain't gonna lie, he was bad. But at the same time, I later found out that he was going through some issues at home.
Mm-hmm.
Brother got killed from gun violence. Mama was battling with some counsel issues. And one day we got a call that these juveniles they was having this house party during school hours. So we had to go over to the house. DeAndre was there. So we had to take DeAndre down to juvenile detention. He stayed up here a few days. And when I say, once he got out, and I asked him, matter of fact, while he was in there, he got hooked up with some counseling and all that stuff. And I asked him, when he got out, changed his life. And I asked him, what was it? He said, being held in juvenile detention, for those couple of days, pretty much changed his life. He got out, went back to school, got into group therapy and also his counseling and all that stuff. They helped him out, got his grades improved. DeAndre, a couple of years later, he graduated from high school, got in college, and now he's advocating for youth.
That's
who
good.
do
That's
juvenile
good stuff.
detention.
And we have some good kids. I made my comments, but I always make it and I preference it. We have some really good students, good talent. I raise this issue everywhere I go. We've got to figure out a way to get the arts back into our schools.
Right, I agree.
That's number one. We've got to give our kids hope. We've got to redo these community centers, and I don't mean with a patch-up job. You got to give them somewhere else to go within the body of these neighborhoods to have hope. Like, for instance, you know, the gentleman that counseled the young man that you're speaking of, you know, and I said this, and I continue to make this argument. I heard one of my colleagues some years ago, she said, Wendell, one of the biggest problems that happened in this public school system is when they took the arts out.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure that we have those things, but not getting so far off script, because we see a lot of the crime that is being committed within our area is by young people that are not even quite 20 years of age.
Right, right.
And so that this becomes very significant to have this piece of legislation, because we could very well, to have the anchor monitor on for that purpose, but to monitor, be able to monitor where they are and help better assist with the number of individuals, because the system is so overcrowded.
Right.
You know, like I tell people all the time, and I know the corporate folks don't tweet me, email, or text me. Listen, I've had enough chicken and cheese. Trust me, and I don't drink anymore. But at the end of the day, we've got to now make sure that we start putting back resources into these communities that need it. And as I just mentioned, even with this bill that you're carrying, we shouldn't have to be in a situation where we're going to be basically mandating that these kids wear ankle braces, but it's because of where we are.
Right.
And I know Representative Tillman, I think, has an amendment he and I talked about, and I think he's going to bring that amendment, or at least ask you to you know, to move forward with it or what have you, accept the amendment. And so I'm not going to get into his portion, but I wanted to just touch bases on this bill. I think this is a good first bill for you in what you do and things of that nature. So I appreciate the opportunity, and whatever we can do. You know, Danny Carr and I talk all the time about the issue, even just hanging in the communities, walking around with book bags. They should be in school, but also we need to make sure. What I would have liked to have seen in this bill was a stronger piece or added dealing with truancy. Because we've got to deal with truancy in the city of Birmingham.
Right.
If we don't, everything that we're doing down here is for naught, with the exception of, you know, we can pass the Glock bill all night.
Yeah.
But if we're not addressing the issue of the distributor and where the kids are buying these illegal guns from, Glock bills are dealing with folks who are, you know, so all of those things. So hopefully, you know, I know you're going to get it out, but I appreciate your efforts, and thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thanks, lady. Question for the body now is adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 98 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I have sub as well. I mean, amendment as well to this bill.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Richmond Tillman.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I do have an amendment.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 199 by Representative Tillman.
Representative Tillman.
Okay, well, the way the bill is currently constituted, it removes the 72-hour hold provision that was in the law. This bill, this amendment actually replaces includes back into the bill the 72-hour hold, as well as a subsequent 7-day hold for different violations thereof. Right. And I also would like to say thank you to the governor's office for working with this amendment, because there was a good amendment that can still help the bill and achieve the same thing. Yes. So I want to say thank you to the governor for helping us with bringing this amendment.
Representative Hendricks, you see it's a friendly amendment?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, you heard the explanation of the amendment. The sponsor sees a friendly amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine. Members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The amendment has been adopted. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Hollis.
you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Yes.
I have a few questions
All right.
on this bill. And one of the first questions is, let's start here. Explain to me about the electronic monitoring services.
So basically, electronic monitoring service is for juvenile delinquents that has violated a crime. Instead of them going to juvenile detention, what the court does, put them on electronic monitoring so they can go home with their family.
Okay, so once they go home with the family, with the monitor on, are they awaiting their trial?
Yes.
Okay, the question is, as they wait on this trial, does the monitor count for credit for time served for the juvenile?
Yes.
Okay, because I passed the bill that's into law now for juveniles to get credit for their time served, because I have visited the detention centers where they're sitting in there for months and
Right.
then they go to court. If they've been sitting for 6 months and then the judge say you get 6 months, then they will spend another 6 months in juvenile. And I guess my other question is, explain to me the difference between a status offender and a delinquent child.
So a delinquent child is a child that's committed a crime, like an assault or a theft or something like that. A status offender is a minor that has not committed a crime. They only broke a rule, like a curfew violation, ran away from home, or ran away from school. So that's the difference.
So this would be for the offender.
Yes.
Okay, and then so once they go to the judge, they get credit for time served. Then whatever time they have to serve, that's what they serve, or they free to go home.
Yes.
So during this time, are they taking any classes as far as behavior-wise, educational-wise?
Yes. So the school itself, they send that juvenile delinquent. What happens is they send them an educational package home, so they doing work as well while they send that home on electronic monitoring.
Okay.
And also, if they decide to do some work or get a job while in that process, they can go to work while they're on monitoring services as well.
And so it starts at 11 years old,
Yes.
which means that they can continue to go to school as well, or
Right.
or they, or do they have to go to a different school?
No, they continue to go to school.
They continue to go to school, and then how often do they have to report in, or they don't have to report in because of the monitor?
Now, depending on the PO, case by case basis.
Okay.
Depending on exactly what they did, depending on the situation.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Chair thanks, Lay. The question for the body now is final passage of HB 199 as amended. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded vote 101 ayes, 0 nays. HB 199 has passed as amended.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you. I just want to just say something real quick, man. When I tell y'all this means a lot, it means a lot. I want to thank everybody who helped me out. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank all my coworkers, man. It's been amazing. And I really do believe that this bill will make a difference. Thank y'all so much.
Congratulations, Red. Good job. Before you leave, let me get you back up to mic just for 1 second. So when we started the series of meeting back last year, Representative Hendricks was in my office and then at the table when we met. And he is an exemplary young man and believes in his community. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the work that you've done on this entire package. And the character that you've shown is to be commended. So let's give him another big hand. First bill, too. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery, Representative Reed Ingram, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to further explain HJR 30, which is the Alabama Metro Area Crime Suppressant Unit. And it's, what we've done in Montgomery, I wanted to kind of further explain. We've gotten 508 arrest warrants we've picked up. We've made 202 arrests. On top of that, we've gotten 14 really bad juveniles off of the street. We've seized 157 illegal guns, and we've made 44 drug arrests. And we think that it's really made a huge difference in Montgomery. And I know that the city appreciates it, the county appreciates it, the sheriff appreciates it, and it wouldn't happen without you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate your leadership and Hal Taylor's leadership and the governor's leadership. But I know when we first started talking about this in your office, you took the lead on it, and I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate those numbers. Thank you very much. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 70 with substitute by Senator Jones relating to the Alabama Veterans Resource Center.
Chairman Oliver, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To establish the Alabama Veterans Resource Center Act to create and designate the Alabama Veterans Resource Center as a public corporation, to provide for the membership of a board of directors for the center, and to provide for the duties and powers of the board in managing the center, and to authorize the center into a public-private partnership. Alabama has a strong military legacy. Alabama is proudly home to over 375,000 veterans, which makes up roughly 7.5% of the state's population. Alabama is noted for providing ongoing support for its service members, but we also recognize that we have critical gaps that remain, particularly in veterans' mental health support. Like many states, Alabama faces a troubling rate of veteran suicides. Alabama recognizes the unique skills of veterans, and transitioning service members are among the most disciplined and skilled professionals in society. Their military experience equips them with leadership abilities, technical expertise, and strong work ethic. All veterans have a need for purpose and opportunity. The role of the Alabama Veterans Resource Center, AVRC, this initiative serves as a bridge between a veteran's last day of military service and their first day in the private sector. The AVRC would help lower veterans' unemployment rates, screen and provide for mental health disorders, and assist with veteran housing options. Key program components would be skills assessments and career coaching to match veterans with opportunities, connection to educational resources for career preparation. By supporting veterans in finding purpose, Alabamians can save lives and foster a stronger veterans community. With that, Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I'd ask for a vote.
Ask questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 98 ayes, 0 ayes. Said that backwards, didn't I? 98 yeas, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the committee substitute.
Okay. Representative Warren, do you want to speak on the sub or the bill? Okay. You care to explain the substitute for us, Mr. Chairman?
In the original bill, we mistakenly did not put an open meetings clause in there, so that's what the substitute does.
Every day explanation of the substitute. Clerk unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Chair recognizes the lady from Macon, Representative Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Just for clarity, because I have not read this book, bill, this resource center, it's a new center that's coming about, and who's going to be managing all this?
This creates a board to actually do this. That's what the legislation is that we're offering.
Okay. Are we appropriating funds for this?
There are some funds that we've identified from workforce development, yes.
I suppose I'm concerned because, you know, there's, from what I can see, there's some good things already in place. And how would this affect the things that are already out there in existence?
It would take nothing away from anything that already exists. It might better coordinate them. This was an opportunity to take public and private funds. Actually, it's a way to get private funds involved in taking care of veterans.
It was just confusing to me, and like I said, I've been working with some veterans lately, and I'm just trying to figure out, you know, is this something that we're taking away from them to replace it with something, or?
We're not replacing anything. This is just a better way to coordinate. We believe a better way to coordinate. We're trying to catch veterans as they come off active duty or as we identify them with needs. This is sort of like one-stop shopping, so that we don't lose them somewhere in the between transitioning off active duty and going back into the civilian world. So ideally, what they'll do is they'll immediately get hooked up with job opportunities, educational opportunities, physical and mental health opportunities, veteran services organizations, all of the things that they might miss were this opportunity were not available.
Okay, I don't have all the information, but I do remember seeing something about a month ago where there was people were being removed from the Veterans Board. Is this the same board? Is that
no?
That is,
and I appreciate you asking that because that does clarify something I want the body to understand. This is a different bill completely.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with all the stuff that's happened already with the veterans and the boards and everything. This is just
absolutely not.
Okay, so we're not going behind the back door to do anything wrong, right? We just
You've known me a long time. I don't do
we're
that.
keeping it straight. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment.
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 70 by Representative Brown.
Chairman Brown, care to explain your amendment?
Yes, sir. What this does, it says, in addition to the reasons set forth in section 36-25-7, the board may go into executive session to discuss sensitive issues related to veterans' needs, programs, or services. So it's just a privacy thing when you discuss someone's personal.
Representative Aller, you've heard the explanation of the amendments. It's a friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
Mr. Speaker, I move for adoption.
That's a question for the body's adoption of the amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Amendment has been adopted.
Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, before you leave, stay right there a minute. These two gentlemen both have served in the armed forces, and I think we should thank them for their service. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for final passage.
That's questions. Final passage of SB 70. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Court vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. SB 70 has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, House Bill number 216 with substitute by Representative Bedsole relating to firearms.
Representative Betso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. There seems to be a lot of emotion today attached to the business of the House, and I'm afraid I'll perhaps tug at a few heartstrings with what I'm presenting here today. Sergeant Houston Lee Tumlin, United States Army, age 28, date of death, March 23rd, 2021. Manner of death, suicide. Lance Corporal Hunter Chase Whitley, United States Marine Corps, age 23. Date of death, November 13th, 2022. Manner of death, suicide. It is with the utmost honor to these two young men from our great state of Alabama who chose to serve their country by enlisting in the United States military, and two young men who ultimately could no longer bear the pain of the devastating effects from post-traumatic stress, and both ultimately decided to take their own life by gunfire. I humbly present HB 216, the Houston Hunter Act. Recent statistics indicate that nationally, over 6,000 military veterans took their life in a year. In the state of Alabama, 85% of the veterans who took their life did so by gunfire. The reality is, I could stand here for hours reading off the list of names of those in our communities who made a similar choice. And I would dare say that each of us in this chamber have a personal account of knowing someone who has made a similar choice to take their own life. Before I fully explain the details of this bill, it was important to first set the context, because the potential positive impact that this bill will create goes far beyond the simple words found on these pages. The Houston Hunter Act is simple. It provides liability protection to any gun dealer who holds their federal firearms license, who chooses to participate in a program where members of the military, military veterans, first responders, or anyone in the community may voluntarily surrender their weapon to a secure safe if they are experiencing suicidal ideations. The liability protection is limited to the act of returning the firearm back to the individual when they feel like they're ready to retrieve their weapon. The language of this bill has been carefully vetted to not overextend this liability protection beyond the scope of its intention. While this bill will not eradicate suicide in our community, but it will provide those who are having suicidal ideations an opportunity to separate themselves from their weapon and seek the help that they need. It's with that, Mr. Speaker, I ask for the BIR.
That is question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Representative Betzel.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we do have a committee sub.
Here to explain the sub, please.
Yes, sir. Just a careful articulating of a few words, again, limiting that liability to the mere act of returning the firearm. Also, the original bill mentioned as a participant in this program that will be known as the Safer Together program, a potential that municipal or county law enforcement be involved. We've just limited it to just the FFLs, Federal Firearm License Dealer, gun shop owners.
You heard the explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Sub has been adopted.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I ask for final passage.
That is question's final passage. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Morgan, Representative Yarborough.
The recognition, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to get clarity. I was reading through it. The person turning over the gun is the individual himself, so it's not like somebody calling them in, like a red flag kind of law. I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. It has to be initiated by the person who's in distress.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 216 as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 98 ayes, 2 nays. HB 216 has passed as substituted.
Thank
Good
you, Mr.
work.
Speaker and members.
Thank you. Chair thanks the gentleman. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 10 of the calendar, House Bill number 141 by Representative Hassel relating to state employees.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Morgan, Representative Stagg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're going to carry this bill over.
You carry the bill over. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The bill has been carried over.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, House Bill number 164 by Representative Faulkner relating to the Small Estates Act.
Representative Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is an Alabama Law Institute bill
where they are revising the Alabama Small Estates Act. There has been a number of lawyers over the last 2 years that practice in this area, as does our own Representative Allman in this area of the law. But what this is doing is changing the threshold amount from being set on an annual basis for small estates. It's in the law currently. It's provided that this is not dealing with any real property. So if your state has real property, this doesn't deal with it. This is only dealing with small estate acts, and this is about personal property. So if you have a small estate and currently in the code, it's not in excess of $25,000, or such adjustments to that amount is made on an annual basis by the state finance director. So what this is going to do is it's going to change it and make it just like the allowances under the homestead allowance, the exempt property, and the family allowance that are in our codes that have a formula that is set according to the consumer price index. Currently, that amount is $47,000. So it would be, you'd have to have, for this to apply to the Small Estates Act, it would be an amount under $47,000 currently. And this is just dealing with personal property. So it's going to make that process simplified, and both the process of distributing a small estate and the process of claiming exemptions and allowances in connection with a small estate. It'll expedite that summary distribution process, and it cleans up some language that had been in there that's not used anymore to go to the terminology that's used today. And if there's no questions, Mr. Speaker, I'd move for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 98 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Representative Faulkner.
If no further questions, I move for final passage.
That is questions. Final passage of HB 164. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 164 has passed.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 6 of the calendar, House Bill number 137 by Representative Reynolds.
Chairman Reynolds,
relating to Aaliyah.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Body, as you recall, HB 137, we passed the Agent Billy Clardy III Act in 2022. It gives Aaliyah the ability to do wire intercepts for drug felony cases only. And I know the body had a lot of concerns over the 2 or 3 years there that bill pended. And I spent last Monday with SBI and wanted to kind of go over some of those things that concerns that I heard in 2022. You know, so one of the issues were that we put verbiage in the bill that they had to exhaust all other means of investigative actions before they could come and seek a wiretap. First thing I heard when I got there was one of the captains talking about an affidavit where he questioned the officer about other measures that he took prior to the affidavit to get the wire. So I think we're going by that. Related to security, I went through 3 different secure doors within Aaliyah. SBI is separated from the other offices there. And then once you got back to the intercept room, the server was in a locked badge access room. The intercept area was separated from that. And certainly, and if you recall the conversation about our written logs, they were all there. Times when the wire intercept had began, when it was cut off because maybe they were listening to personal issues, and that's one of the things this bill will do. We'll talk about some interpreters here in just a minute. But by 2024, they were live on the intercepts. Between the time you passed the bill, they did training with the Attorney General's office. They purchased the equipment and established procedures within Aaliyah, which also this body had asked for. They did 4 intercepts in 2024, and they had 30-day extensions on 2 of those 4 intercepts. From that actions, they did 10 search warrants, 2,500 grams of fentanyl seized, 12,000 grams of cocaine, 100,000 grams of marijuana, 37 firearms seized, 10 vehicles, and over 230,000 in cash. 19 arrests so far. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll call for the BR.
Question for the body's adoption of the BR. Clerk unlock the machine. Members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Recorded votes 99 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, HB 137 will remove the sunset and let this enforcement continue, and it adds interpreters, foreign language interpreters, to their ability to listen to the wire intercept. And that's precautionary as well as on the enforcement side, because they can't understand a lot of times the language going on. They may be talking to an attorney or maybe talking to a family member. They want those interpreters sitting there so they know when to cut that machine off and when not to. And then certainly they support the enforcement side of it as well. With that, I'll call for final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Mobile, Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chairman Reynolds, I just have one simple question. I thought that wiretapping interpreters is already allowed under current law. Is that not correct?
Well, there is a federal wiretap law, and if you remember my comments, we wanted to give the state the ability to do exactly what the feds allow to. We have much more state-level agencies than we do federal agencies, and we felt like SBI was capable of doing that in the state of Alabama, and clearly they are based on the enforcement they've done.
And so this is already existing law in the state, and we are extending it?
We are.
It was going to sunset?
Yes, ma'am, we're taking the sunset off.
And so ordinarily, boards and commissions would review to see whether this law was effective and needed to extend it? Are we getting ahead of ourselves?
No, I don't think so. I mean, judicial was the same one that this bill originally went to, and then we're coming here simply to remove the sunset. And as you say, according to my testimony comments today, that certainly they have done everything they said they were going to do. All the provisions are in place, all the documentation, and certainly doing a good enforcement job.
Would you repeat those statistics again? Some of them went right over my head.
Okay, sure will. During the 4 intercepts, and 2 of those were extended for 30 days, 10 search warrants, 2,500 grams of fentanyl.
2,500
grams of fentanyl.
Okay.
12,000 grams of cocaine seized, 100,000 grams of marijuana, 37 firearms, 10 vehicles seized, and over 230,000 in cash, and so far on those 19 arrests.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ringo, Representative McCampbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would a gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Okay. One question. We have interpreters that will be there. Okay, what are their certifications, as law enforcement interpreters? Is there something, or are we just pulling from because oftentimes we're going to, in law enforcement, you need someone that can retain the information without it spreading outside of the walls or the confines of it. So what will be the vetting process for those interpreters, or do you know?
That's a good question. I had that same question last week with SBI, and they will be sworn. They'll be sworn that not only what they hear is confidential, they also have to agree to come back and produce testimony in court.
Okay. Thank you then.
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Clark, Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want Representative to just go over those data points again. How many grams of fentanyl and
Yeah, be glad to. That's the important part of this. 10 search warrants, 2,500 grams of fentanyl, 12,000 grams of cocaine, 100,000 grams of marijuana, 37 firearms, 10 vehicles, over $230,000 in cash, and 19 arrests so far.
and that all came through wiretap.
Sir,
All that arrest came through,
information received during that wire intercept, yes, sir.
and you want to do what to this bill?
We want to extend it.
Oh, yeah, I guess you would. I mean, law enforcement is doing their job, but what I'm afraid of, what really is frightening, is when we, on the national level, when we got all security being just wide open for everybody to, and yet they want to look at it. That's troubling. But Alabama's doing a great job with this, and then
There are over 4,800 man hours put into these first 4 wire sets. I think they've done an excellent job.
and so how long are we going to extend it? Is going to be no deadlines here, because a lot is working so well. So we want to keep it forever.
We do. We extend it forever. Certainly, it's been a very valuable law enforcement tool.
And what aspects of this wiretap have come through our state or through the federal? When I say state, I'm talking about the AG's office, and when I'm talking federal, I'm talking about the FBI.
Well, all this is at the state level, and as you recall, we have a step in there that the Attorney General approves the affidavit for the wire intercept, and then the Secretary of ALEA approves that before it ever goes to a judge of origin for that jurisdiction. All this is state level.
Is there probable cause for these things to happen, or you just suspect?
Well, the probable cause is established in the testimony given to the individuals I just commented to, and then particularly the judge of origin in that jurisdiction. Again, this is all state level. This is not federal.
I heard that. I asked, my question was, is it probable cause or is it just suspect?
No, it's probable cause. They got to meet that threshold.
Okay,
yes, sir.
all right. Well, I like what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not in law enforcement, but I want to commend those men and women who are, and you do a great work keeping us safe and keeping the firearms and drugs off our streets. Is one way that we can move forward as a state and
Absolutely.
nation. Thank you for you.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. Question for the body now is final passage of HB 137. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 99 ayes, 0 nays. HB 137 has passed. Good work, Mr. Chairman. Very good. Clerk, call up the next bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, House Bill number 92 by Representative Brown with substitute relating to the state waters.
Chairman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. I have House Bill 92 that deals with seagrass. And what this is about is Mobile Bay has experienced a 30 to 40% decline in seagrass over the last 40, 50 years, with some areas just having up to a 90% degradation in seagrass. Seagrass grows on the ocean floor or sea floor, and it's a place where seafood goes to reproduce. It also provides, helps with the clarity of the water. 88% of our seagrass in Alabama are non-native invasive species. It's important for my area and important for the state because it helps the seafood industry, recreational fishing, and business in general. What this does is it establishes a seagrass task force to study the issue and to develop a 10-year plan so that all the individual groups that are out there trying to work on this issue can have one plan moving forward. And that's what it does.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Bill has been adopted. Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for adoption of the sub.
you care to explain your sub to us?
Sure. What we did, we just we clarified a couple of issues in there and made it where originally the Department of Conservation was going to be the agency that executed any plan, and this caused some problems with private funds and federal funds. So we took them out so that each individual agency can do their own thing essentially and guide their own plan.
Okay, you heard the explanation of the sub. Representative Clark, you don't speak on the sub, or Jackson, you don't speak on the club. Let me start all over. Representative Jackson, would you like to speak on the sub? Did you get, was that clear?
I got a little tongue twisted there, but that's all good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I want to ask, look, when you said seagrass, and I think about Congress, which was a land grass that just took over.
No, this is
This grows in the sea.
in the sea. Yeah, you normally
Can
don't
you explain
ever
that to
see
some of
it.
the people? Could you explain that people don't live by the
Sure.
water, don't know what you're talking about?
If you took all the water out, then the floor of, say, Mobile Bay, Mississippi Sound, all of that should be covered in grass.
Or the Tennessee Valley.
Well, underwater.
Oh, yeah.
So all that is covered in essentially like seaweed,
Okay.
a form of grass. And that's a place where fish, crabs, shrimp, they reproduce in those areas. It's a place of shelter. And it's also, it clears the water up. It acts as a natural filter for water. And that clear water helps all of us. So what has happened is we've had invasive species which have come in that aren't native to our area, and they're destroying all of the native seagrasses. That combined with just, everyday life of things that we do, it's degraded the value of the seagrass.
Well, Speaker, I want to there's another bill that was talking about grass, but they wanted the grass to be cut and removed from the waters because it was causing the problem. So this is a whole different issue here.
Whole different issue.
What you were saying about that grass gives the ecosystem boost.
This is good grass.
Good grass. You can't smoke it.
No.
Thank you so much.
Can't smoke.
That's a pretty good biology lesson there, guys. That's good. Question for the body is adoption of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for final passage.
That is questions final passage of HB 92 as substituted. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. HB 92 as substituted has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
members.
Clerk, call next bill.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 9 with substitute by Representative Halsey relating to education.
Representative Halsey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to let you guys know that last year we passed this bill. It just died in the Senate on the last day, so I'm bringing it back to see if we can get it across the finish line this year. But the primary goal of HB 9 is to strengthen the implementation of the Literacy Act by addressing a common barrier to student learning, which is a non-evidence-based method of instruction called 3Qing. 3Qing does not emphasize phonics-based learning, and it causes students to be overly dependent on visual cues, which leads to guessing or seeking to memorize cues. I do have a sub, but with that, Mr. Speaker, I move the BIR.
Sure, recognize the gentleman from Escambia. Chairman Baker.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Representative Halsey, thank you so much for bringing this bill. Last year, you did a nice job with this. The thing that I would just sort of help to point back out to members, again, this is something that could be, this method of teaching, which is sort of a outdated method, could be an impediment to students actually learning to read. and all. So that's one of the things that's very critical on this. So it doesn't mean this is not an avenue for a child to be able to read, but it could actually be an impediment for them learning to read and such. So that's very important. I'd like to see this pass again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR has been adopted. Representative Halsey.
So, Mr. Speaker, HB 9 is a committee sub.
Yeah, you're curious. Explain your sub to us, please.
Yes, sir. So all the sub did was make technical changes and then add some accountability language to the bill. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt the bill as substituted.
Okay, you heard the explanation of the sub. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Representative Halsey.
Mr. Speaker, I move for final passage of HB 9 as substituted.
Okay, you've heard the request. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 98 ayes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. HB 9 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, body.
Thank you, lady. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, House Bill number 134 by Representative Ingram relating to motor vehicles.
Chairman Ingram, if recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 134 is just a, I guess the counties and the municipalities don't get anything on tags or on handicap, and this would get their fees split up. Tag would get half of the fees, and then the handicap would get all. And I'd like to recognize somebody in the gallery, if it's okay, Mr. Speaker. Mays Mitchell, which he's handicapped. He's the one that inspired me for this. He can never get a handicap. He got hurt as in the Army and fell out of a helicopter, and he's been paralyzed for years. But he was also appointed by Sigelman for Veterans Affairs. But he should be in the gallery. I don't know where he is now, but anyway, if there's any questions, I'll answer them. If not, I ask for the BR, Mr. Speaker.
Well, certainly thank him for his service. I don't see him in there. Question for the body's adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote.
Yes, please.
Clerk will lock the machine and record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays. BIR has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for final passage.
That's questions. Final passage of HB 134. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the votes. 98 ayes, 0 nays. HB 134 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 12 of the calendar, House Bill number 140 by Representative Mooney relating to public utilities sewer systems.
Representative Mooney.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure many of you remember that in 2021 in Shelby County, we had a process that our county had a constitutional amendment that was passed to move a privately owned water system in our county under the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission. That was Southwest Water, which today, I believe they're known as Alabama Water Services. I'm not sure that I got that right, but it's a change in name. Those Shelby County water sewer systems are owned by a parent company, as I described, that owns additional unregulated sewer systems in other counties. This proposed legislation would allow those unregulated, privately owned sewer systems, which are affiliated with the regulated sewer system, to elect, it's permissive, on their own, choose to come under the regulation of the PSC. The common regulatory structure appears to be more efficient from what I have been told by their organization, as well as having some entities regulated and some unregulated. It just causes problems on common corporate services such as financial, legal, and maintenance processes. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'd move the passage of the BIR.
That's question is passage of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move final passage if there are no further questions about
He
the law.
recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman here.
Yes, sir.
I guess the question I had in reference to the private sewage system, because I know we've had some of those same issues in Tuscaloosa County, but this does not force any particular, it just allows.
You're correct. It's a permissive bill that allows someone to bring under the Public Service Commission something that they choose on their own they believe would be helpful to them.
Okay, so
We're trying to work with our folks that are still there. They're providing services to our people and people in other counties, and if it'll be more efficient, then we want to support it, and that's why everybody in my county signed on it. We did not want to appear to be obstructionists.
But it will apply in any other counties that come to own.
I think anybody could do it that chooses to under the way the bill's written.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Question for the body is final passage of HB 140. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 100 ayes, 0 nays, 1 abstention. HB 140 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members of the body.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chairman Ingram, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since we got in a hurry and we had a friendly amendment on this, and if we could do a reconsider on the vote to
Okay,
accept the amendment.
all those in favor of reconsider say aye. Any opposed?
What this amendment does, it sunsets in 3 years so we can measure if there's a
Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to House Bill number 134 by Representative Ingram.
friendly. No, it's
absolutely. This amendment, what she has, it sunsets it in 3 years.
That's right.
Okay, you heard the explanation.
It's friendly.
Heard the explanation of the amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 101 ayes, 0 nays. Substitute has been adopted. Question for the body now is final passage as amended of HB 134. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 99 ayes, 0 nays. HB 134 has passed as adopted.
And Mays Mitchell is back in the.
Let's give him a big thank you for being with us today. Thank you for your service.
Service, sir.
Chair recognizes the lady from Morgan, Chairwoman Collins, for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say something. We passed a 3Qing this year bill, which bans a process that actually can sometimes interfere with children learning to read. And all of you may not follow education news as closely as I do, and so I did want to point out we've had tremendous gains since this body passed the Literacy Act. It's not only helped grow literacy for our children all around the state, but even their math scores are improving because of that. If you remember, about 6 years ago, we were ranked 52 in math and I think 47 in literacy. Well, 2 years ago on the NAEP scores, we went up to the high 40s in math, but 30s. And now, this year, and what I want to point out to everyone, these are what I would call pure little COVID babies. They were in kindergarten and then first grade when COVID happened. And they not only maintained their literacy score, which ranks us about 34th in the nation, but they raised their math scores, our little fourth graders. And so it's all due to the hard work that y'all did. Some of these bills that we were saying were really going to be good. You almost had to trust us. And so I want to say, give yourself a hand because it's working and our children are benefiting because of it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to reiterate, I messed up. The ALCAP breakfast is Thursday morning, not tomorrow morning. ALCAP's Thursday. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand in adjournment until.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.